Welcome to part 2 of Sexy Sizzling Steaks. Chef Brendan and I are going to be matching some fresh herbs with some tantalizing techniques using braised short ribs, flank steak, and some mouth-watering dry rubs. Did I mention meat god Tim Petroni? Let's have some fun.
We've got our vegetables in here which we've sauteed, put them in the bottom of the roasting pan. We're just going to add a little bit of fresh thyme, some rosemary, and we'll throw a little basil in there for love. Throw in the certified Angus beef braised short rib. What I've done is put a espresso coffee rub on it.
Is there anything else that you put in with it?
We mix it in with a little bit of flour. There's a little bit of garlic powder in there, onion powder, a little bit of cumin, coriander. We just rub that on the outside, sear it, make sure it's seared all the way around, keep the juices in. And then we're going to put it into the roasting pan on top of our vegetables with our herbs. And then we just got a little beef stock here, which we're just going to pour over the top. It doesn't need to be completely submerged, but as long as it sort of comes up halfway.
Now, instead of using like a beef stock or a chicken stock or vegetable stock, you could put some white wine in this.
Yeah, you could throw in a little white wine, you could throw in some beautiful red wine. Sometimes towards the end of summer, a lot of our chefs will take some of the stone fruit. You could throw some apricots in there, some peaches, a little bit of Chardonnay, and you could braise it in that.
That'd be absolutely incredible.
You sear it off, you throw it in here, you put it in the oven at about 250 for about 3.5 hours. Go play golf, go shopping, come back.
And it's just going to be melt in your mouth, tender, and just fall apart.
Absolutely.
Now Tim, can you explain a few offcuts that we could use?
You guys are showcasing some beautiful certified Angus beef today. So let's talk about the short rib that Chef did today. This is an extension off the prime rib. So what they do is they cut the bones off here, and you can see how meaty and juicy and flavorful that's going to be. A little less expensive, but all kinds of flavor in there. Natural moisture in the meat. As Chef sears it, he's locked in all the juices. When you eat that, it's going to be like eating butter.
This is more like a braising, putting it in the oven, finishing it that way, or using your barbecue, as we've talked about before, is closing the barbecue, having the heat on low on one side, off on the other, and just letting it go for 4 hours.
That's right, Chef. You do an indirect heat, what they call an indirect heat on it. So you do a nice rub, put it on the barbecue, just a little bit of stock at the bottom, and then turn the burners on the outside, not underneath your product. And you just want the heat to kind of envelope over the top, and again, go sit down on your deck, have a beer, relax, and don't worry about it for 3 hours.
So this is one of my favorite underutilized pieces of meat. It's a flank steak. Now Tim, can you tell us exactly where it comes from and why is it underutilized?
It's underutilized, first of all, because there's only one of these per side, 2 per animal. It comes off the end of the hind quarter. Very flavorful, very inexpensive. You can see here, Chef, how the grain runs this way. If you were to cut this flank steak this way, it's going to be very tough. What you need to remember, and not just in this particular cut, but any cut of beef, if you cut it across the grain, it's going to melt in your mouth.
Thanks. Now it's very lean again, so we want to cook it rare, medium rare really at the most.
Medium rare is optimum. If you stop at medium rare, anything over that, it'll start getting tough.
So what we have here is your flank steak. And what you want to do is, you want to make sure that you clean it up. So you can see there's some excess fat there. This is the stuff that you don't want. Compared to the fat where you see on the inside of a steak, that's called marble. And marble gives meat its flavor and juice. This kind of fat just gives you grease, and you don't want to eat that. So we want to trim that off. As well as take that silver skin off. You can see it there, that's the silver skin. That's going to be really tough to chew through. So we're going to clean that up. Take all that part off so that when we cut this for fajitas, put it in a salad, a wrap, it's going to be beautiful. Now if you get this at your local butcher shop, if you ask him to do that, he'll gladly trim this up for you. There you have a nicely trimmed flank steak.
Now is this Chef Brandon's
This
famous
is
rub?
Chef Brandon's famous rub. And it's got garlic, it's got jalapeno peppers, it's got red chili peppers, parsley. So we're going to rub all this on this flank steak.
We're getting the aroma from here, Tim. This is unbelievable. You don't get this out of a tin at all,
Yeah, fresh herbs. Get most of those herbs out of your garden.
So what we're going to do is show you a couple of ways to get instant flavor into the steaks without putting too much effort in. So traditionally we have our salt and pepper, okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to move from salt and pepper into what we refer to as a dry rub. This one here is a peri-peri rub, which has a lot of chili flakes in, dried herbs, dried mustard, dried garlic. This one here is a homemade one. If you want to do a homemade rub, the general rule is 50% sugar, 50% salt, and then just add your flavor profile, whether it be cayenne, paprika, mustard powder, or you want to go the other way, dried herbs, thyme, oregano, basil. And you can really come up with any flavor profile that you desire. Now over here is a wet rub, and that usually you leave between an hour to 3 hours when you're using a wet rub. On the end here, if you don't have time to go through all this process, go to a nice artisan store, get yourself a chutney, and when you're finished with your steak, take a little spoonful of that farmhouse chutney, put it over the top, and you got yourself a beautiful steak. And the great thing about a dry rub is it's instant flavor, chef.
Instant flavor.
And for tenderloin, I like to season it. And we're just going to season both sides of the steak. Sear it in a pan, again to keep the juices in. And then we're going to throw it in the oven. I find if you grill it, you dry it out.
Yep.
So we're going to sear this and finish it in the oven. So this is our flank steak. Now you can do this on the grill or in the pan. We've chosen to do it in the pan today because it's got a wet rub on it. And with the wet rub, sometimes it can get stuck to the broiler. So it works better in the pan, but you could certainly do it on the broiler. So what we're going to do is just sear it on one side, flip it over, throw it in the oven, and then we'll bring it out when it's medium rare. Okay, so this is our flank steak that we did the wet rub on. What we're going to do here is just cut a couple of slices, and I'm cutting it against the grain. And actually now when you cut it, you get a good visual of which way the grain's running, which is the length of the meat. I always like to make sure that I season it once I've sliced it. So you just want a little bit of sea salt, and then all we're going to do is we're just going to take that and put it on top of the salad. And then Chef Daryl is going to finish it with some summer greens.
And as the greens wilt a little bit over the heat of the meat, again, they're going to take a little bit of that bitterness away and give it a little sweeter flavor.
And there you go. That's your flank steak. Beautiful cut of meat. So I've got my plate here. I've got a little ring mold in the plate.
And you can buy a ring mold at any kitchen store.
You know what? We even have some of our customers that get really creative and ingenious, and they just cut a little piece of a PVC pipe. And all we're going to do here is just a different take on a potato salad. So what we've done is just steam the fingerling potatoes. When they're done, come out hot. We slice them in half. We add a little bit of rice wine vinegar, some fresh basil, a little bit of roasted garlic and olive oil. And then we've just simply taken some cherry tomatoes and roasted them. So we're just going to put it together. It's going to look pretty sexy and fancy, but at the end of the day, it's very easy to do. So we've got our tenderloin here, chef, that we've let rest on the cedar plank. We're going to add these little bit of roasted cherry tomatoes for a little bit of color. We're just going to simply just rest our tenderloin on top of our potato salad.
Look how sexy and pretty that looks.
And just to finish it off, we got some beautiful sun-dried tomato pesto here. It's just simply sun-dried tomatoes, roasted garlic, pine nuts, some fresh basil and olive oil. And you just need to blend that together. There's some beautiful salts available in the marketplace from all around the world. Right, today we have a little porcini salt, we have a little truffled salt. And if you just smell that, it's absolutely amazing.
Oh, amazing.
Tim, give that a whiff.
Oh,
We'll take a little bit of that truffle salt and just drop it on the top there. That'll give it an amazing aroma and finish the dish off beautifully.
very juicy, very flavorful, and sexy.
So this is our braised short rib, chef, that we put in earlier this morning. Very gently, because it's a very tender piece of meat and we don't want to damage it. We're just going to take it out. Keep it close because we're going to use some of the jus. All we're going to do is take some of those beautiful asparagus that you grilled up earlier, chef. I'm just going to lay them down on the plate. Now remember, guys, this can be done on your barbecue, out in the backyard. So you can even throw the cherry tomatoes on the barbecue. Just roll them in a little bit of olive oil, throw them on the barbecue. Now, chef, I love roasting the cherry tomatoes. You probably find that people are thinking, why is he roasting them? But what happens is it brings out the natural sugar in the cherry tomatoes and makes it really sweet. It gives it a really sweet caramel flavor. I'm just going to slice off a piece of our espresso braised short rib.
You know, Tim, I think you should cut us off a piece just to try it before you place it.
That's a great idea.
Let's try that, guys. Tell me what you think.
Oh my. Oh.
I'm speechless.
Chef, you just need to take some of those drippings from the pan. Okay, some of that love, some of that goodness. And we're just gonna simply spoon that over the top.
We can put some of your old farmhouse chutney right on top of that.
That'd be beautiful. And these are called chili threads. And you can usually find these at like a little gourmet store. You can throw that on top and you can look super fancy, when in actual fact, it doesn't take much effort at all.
In all our recipes that we've done today, everything's really simple, about 5 ingredients, nothing that's going to take up a lot of time. This is ChefD for ChefD TV. Here's to great eating, because you're worth it.